Hey Lauren, how's it going?
Hi, Kelly. I'm good. How are you?
Awesome. Thanks so much for agreeing to join me here on this video. We kind of originally kicked this off because we wanted to unpack color trends 2021, the color of the year. But I actually think that there's so many other questions. It's been a long time since we've caught up, and I know that you have been really busy. So I know a lot of people that are going to be joining this already know all about Lauren Perry. But for those people that are going to be joining that maybe haven't met you before, who are you and how did you get into interior design?
Well, welcome everybody who doesn't know me. Hopefully we'll meet you in the near future. My name's Lauren Perry, as Kelly said. I work for Perry & Perry Architects in town here. It's actually a family-run business, which is very similar to you, Kelly, as well. So it's been fantastic. I've been working there for about 7 years after I graduated from interior design.
Love it. Now, where did you go to school for interior design?
So luckily, I was actually the last year that was able to graduate with a college diploma in order to get your professional designation as an interior designer. So I went to Georgian College for 3 years. But anyone who's interested in becoming registered now, you actually have to get your full bachelor's degree, so a 4-year university degree.
That's interesting. Now, a lot of times we're using the word interior design. It gets kind of tossed around synonymous with decorating, and it's like this, and I know that sometimes people are like, okay, well, what makes an interior designer versus maybe somebody that is a decorator or
Right.
I've never fully understood how it all breaks out. So
Here, I'll clear it up for you.
Explain it.
No problem. And you know what? You're not the only one. The general public really doesn't understand the difference between the two. You can go to school for either. You can definitely go to school for interior decorating, but interior design definitely focuses on more construction drawings and kind of the roots of the project. So we work alongside architects, and you're considering power plans, reflected ceiling plans, not necessarily just selecting out furniture or window treatments, which is something we also offer. But we definitely take a holistic approach from the ground up.
So I feel like that would probably be pretty critical. I know that whenever I'm thinking about like a major reno or a build versus just finishes, right? I think it's probably where you find those skills really come into play in your day-to-day.
You got it. So I think anybody who's tackled a renovation themselves, small or large, they realize there are so many moving parts and so many balls in the air where a ball could get dropped. So that's where the experience comes in, where you have years and years of education and years of interning alongside, registered architects and designers. So you can catch those balls before they do drop.
Right. So now we've got Perry & Perry or interior. Okay, how does the title go? Because I just think of your Instagram account, which may not be the actual company name. So you've got the family business, which is the
architecture firm.
And then tell us about the services that you're offering on. Is it Interiors by
Perry & Perry?
Perry. Okay, so it's an Instagram handle.
Right. So when I started working there, I really noticed that there was a void where the architects would take them to a certain point and then there were no services beyond that. So I wanted to be able to help provide more services for the clients we already had, but I also wanted to grab new clients. I wanted people to understand they could come to Perry & Perry and just have those interior design services, even if they don't necessarily need a full architectural plan. So
I love it.
And that's where it was born.
Thanks for explaining that. And then for instance, with, in terms of like your day-to-day, right? Give me an example of a day in the life of Lauren, and maybe the toothbrushing, waking up part. Like, what are you doing day-to-day?
Yeah. So my day starts really early. I have 2 young toddlers, 2 boys, which you met on the weekend actually at the barn, who keep me very, very busy. They are so spirited and I love it. So I'm actually usually up at 5. I try to get my workout in before the kids are up and the chaos begins. Get them fed, we get out the door, and then I'm usually at work between 7:30 and 8. And I try to catch up on all of my emails and, just get a grip on how my projects are going for that day. And then usually I'm out. I'm not in my office quite a lot. I'm outsourcing. I'm out at consultations. I'm out meeting the trades to make sure that my projects are on time. And then by the end of the day, I will come home, cook dinner, get ready for bed for the boys, and then catch up on some more emails at night. So the week is a bit of a blur. I do look forward to weekends where, you can have some leisure time too with your family. But yeah.
Hey, it sounds like your days are really busy. Please explain to me how you have time to also write honestly, the most loving book. This book is just absolutely wonderful. And so you wrote this book.
I did. Yes.
My
interior designer, author.
How did you have time to do this?
Well, that's a really good question. So I actually wrote that on maternity leave. So I wasn't working.
So you had time. It's like, where do you?
I'm so used to that pace that I was itching to do something creative, and I was really missing my work. And I started journaling, and it just kind of spoke to me and transformed from there. So my baby's first love is obviously near and dear to my heart. Thank you for sharing that with everybody.
We love it. So many team members here at Barrydowne purchased it, and it's so beautifully done. It's really
well, thank you. And you know what? One of the most important things in that book to me was color. The color palette was everything for those illustrations. Yeah, so those colors were like hand selected.
Yeah, that's interesting. So it comes into play in multiple facets of your life. I just wanted to mention it because it's something that we've been meaning to congratulate you on. This is like,
well, thank you.
Wonderful. And it's one of those things where you're like, oh yeah, and she wrote a book.
You're too kind. You're too kind.
It's awesome. Yeah. Super mom. So
thank you.
When we originally said we were gonna, let's connect for a call, we want to talk about color trends and color of the year. A lot of people are using, we love this time of year because every, kind of company comes out with their forecast colors for what are going to be the on-trend colors going forward. I think a lot of us, when we're decorating this, it's been a challenging time, but it's been an opportunity that a lot of us have used the time as a means of updating our homes.
Totally.
And so there's a lot more attention on color trends because if you are going to invest in redecorating, renoing, the stakes are kind of high if you get the colors wrong.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right.
I need to know. So, Benjamin Moore, color of the year.
Do I ever?
Aegean Teal. Do you love it?
Love it. And you know what? I know. This is a color that honestly I've been using for years. It's near and dear to my heart. I actually had a throw that I bought when I was in design school, and I was on the verge of saying, okay, it's been long enough now, time to donate. But something told me, just keep it. You love the color. Why would you get rid of it? And sure enough, this is the color of the year. So it shows you that trends will cycle back if you wait long enough.
It's true. And when they said Aegean Teal, that's one of the first things is when they said Aegean Teal, I was like, oh my God, we've used that color lots.
Right?
So I didn't really interpret it as a trend. Does that sound weird?
No, I totally agree with you.
Trend color. It's just kind of like a staple color.
It's kind of a tried and true, right? And I think that's why every year I'm always surprised by the color that they're picked. Every year. But I love them. I just think it's because, I know that color, right? Like you said, it really is, something that's tried and true. And they're saying that it's a trend now, so we can just keep using it.
So question for you, before they announced this, what were you thinking it was going to be?
Okay, so yes, I was really expecting more of a blue. And I know we're going to flash forward a little bit. We're going to talk about my projection for what I thought the color of the year would be. I definitely thought it was going to be reminiscent of navy, but kind of refreshed. So I was surprised that it was this teal undertone, but I'm not angry about it.
No, and so when they come out with the color of the year, they also launch the whole palette. I know we're not talking about 2020, but this has come up on another kind of conversation, but the 2020 palette was so pretty. You know,
Oh, it's gorgeous.
2020 palette was so pretty. And I feel like we're moving
Soft.
on to 2021, but the 2020 palette was just really, really pretty. I'm kind of sad to see it go. But each year they come out with these, you know, and often we find that it's colors, not just the, you know, everybody knows the color of the year, but there's other colors in the palette that end up often becoming a little bit of like the winners or the go-to.
Yeah,
so
more popular.
Exactly. So when you were looking over the 2021 palette, were there any colors that stood out where you thought, oh wow, okay, yep, this is going to be, I could really see myself using this color?
Yeah, so there were a few that really jumped out to me. Silhouette was one of them. It is such a gorgeous color. I know you spoke about it with Athena too, so she's got great taste.
Yeah.
Silhouette is a play off of a gray black, and it definitely has those purple undertones. And I just see it as being so moody and so impactful that it would really give pop to a space. So this is something where I would love to see like a high gloss trim work in a dining room, or just really pack that punch. I think it's kind of go big or go home with this color for sure. But that was one that really jumped out to me. I think I've got it here too in smaller form, but just beautiful, very flattering color to live in.
Complex. It looks very different in different lighting. So it is a bit purpley. It's kind of looking purpley on the screen here, but sometimes people don't realize that it's purpley beforehand.
Yeah.
But it's a gorgeous color. A lot of people.
Yeah. When you paint with this, you definitely paint with intention.
Right. Yeah. So what else? What other colors? So Silhouette, I feel like people are really latching onto this color from the collection. They're like, oh, they could see themselves using it.
Yeah, it's very livable, right?
Mm-hmm.
The other one that I was really drawn to was Potter's Clay. I love this color. And you know what's kind of funny, speaking about trends and how they cycle? The police station essentially has Potter's Clay all within it with a very light teal.
How do you know that?
And, yeah, I haven't spent much time there. But yeah. So for years I've been saying we should really update this and, you know, bring it back up onto trend. And now it's been about 20 or 30 years it's been painted that way, and we might not have to paint again.
Exactly.
Those colors are coming back, right?
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, I'm really drawn to it. I just love how it's just natural. And I feel like it's a paint that exudes texture, even though it's not texturized, which I find really cool. So this color has a lot of character to it and can bring a lot of warmth to a space.
Yeah. How would you use it? Would you use it on walls? This is a wall color, paint color, or are you using it in accessories? What are you thinking?
So again, I can totally see this as a textured type of paint. So I would probably do this in a living room where you can really layer on those textures, as opposed to like in a kitchen where you have a lot of kind of high gloss or sheen. Yeah. So I would probably go living room with a lot of like wool throws and, you know, textured textiles throughout the whole space to continue that theme. You know, in Potter's Clay, literally, if you think about pottery, it can be unfired and that, you know, really cool texture and neat, almost pink undertones.
Do you think that we're drawn to this because it's so cold?
It's comfortable.
Exactly. It's
maybe because it's just so comfortable. But, and you know what, speaking of old, like, think of how long pottery has literally been around. So I think it's a very rudimentary color. And again, just kind of, I'm at a loss for words for that one.
Yeah. No, I love it.
We can edit that one out.
We were really excited about this. Also, we thought that this could have been like a color of the year. We thought this is more of a trend. Like, it's like, ooh, new, you know, terracotta coming back. That's kind of new and noteworthy. So what else? What other colors?
Oh, okay. So one color I love. I don't even know if this is on the 2021 palette though.
Okay.
I have to double check. Cushing green.
Oh, this is on the Lauren.
This is on the Lauren
palette.
2021 palette.
I love this color.
So Cushing green, and you know what? I feel like it could have been on the 2021 color palette. It's a very approachable color. So many people are scared of greens. They really are. Even though green is natural and we see it every day, this is a very approachable color. And I think what we're going to see with architecture in the future is the beginning of compartmentalization of rooms. We have been open concept for so long, and really people have only been able to carry maybe one color through that space because it's so open, right? And if we now start to narrow down the rooms, there's more opportunity to paint with full color, right? So you can do a dining room in Cushing green and make a huge impact, but your whole house doesn't feel green.
So now I want to talk about open concept. Closed concept would be the opposite, or you called it something else, compartmentalized?
So essentially compartmentalization, it's just giving these areas specific purposes, right? So you kind of create destinations for your home as opposed to everything being under one. I'm all for open concept, believe me. We are definitely hosting in a more relaxed atmosphere now. The climate has changed from butler kitchens. I'm not saying we're going back to kitchens in the corner.
Concept, because I actually am I strongly dislike open concepts because when I'm entertaining my kitchen, I'm like, everybody ends up hanging out in there.
And it's a disaster.
It's a disaster. I'm like, please, like, no, don't hang out here. So I find it really interesting. I have like an older closed, like the dining room is a dining room, the kitchen is a kitchen, there's a foyer connecting these rooms. And I love it. I love not having open concept because if people in the living room, they can't see the mess in my kitchen. And I think that's just awesome.
I'm totally with you. And when it comes to being in your home, comfort is everything, right? Think of this. When you go to a restaurant, 90% of people are going to pick the booth. People like the booth because it's intimate and private. So translate that into your home. You're going to have these little niches where you can escape to should you need to. And even for guests, if they want to have a conversation in private or kind of on their own, you have these destinations. And I really think that that is how we're going to see more saturated colors incorporated into homes, which I'm really, really excited about.
So not flow, because we're getting compartmentalized. So this is like a destination color for the master, for the dining room, for the living room.
You got it. And with this color, I totally see, again, this is me projecting what I think is coming back. We really, like Athena said as well, we kind of have exhausted gray. We've done gray a lot, and we're bridging on warmer colors. I really think in architecture and interior design, we're going to see more neoclassical. We're going to be seeing more like 18th century American with tartan plaids and tufted leathers, and just really that more traditional feel of homes, which I'm excited about. I'm always drawn to classics, so I can't wait to start sinking my teeth into these colors and making some pretty fabulous rooms.
And don't you find, tell me what you think, but don't you find the individuality, I don't know if that's the right word, but
totally.
This actually happened to me 6 years ago. I was going to a customer's house and it was a new build in a new neighborhood, but there was a lot of other new builds and they were at the point of cabinets going in, and the houses weren't marked, the numbers, and I accidentally walked into the wrong job site. But I mean, the flooring color was the dark espresso-y gray.
Yep.
The walls were gray. The cabinets were like a blackish brown. The same granite. I was in there talking with the trades for probably about 30 minutes.
Without noticing.
Across the street and saw my neighbor standing, my customer standing in the neighbor's construction site. That's weird. Why is she over there? So, you know, I wonder, I'm so excited about this because I wonder if we're going to be going back to individuality where my color is going to be my color, and rather than the same shades being used everywhere.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. And that was a point I wanted to bring up about these trends and color palettes. I do have a love-hate relationship with trends because I don't want people to feel forced into a color in order to be relevant, right? Yep. So I think my advice to people would be, you know, the application of paint is just as important as the color itself. So I think you should really focus on what it is that you're painting first. Is it that island that you really want to have punch with? Is it an accent wall? Is it your den? And then decide what emotion you want to feel after that. right? So let's say in your dining room, you wanted it to be moody and romantic and you're going to have late night candlelight dinners. Well, then maybe silhouette is a perfect color for you with gorgeous trim work in there in a high gloss, right? So I think we really have to focus, and especially because we're spending so much time in our homes now, we have to be the priority. We have to know what colors make us feel good and jump off that.
I think that's awesome. I love it. So now you unpacked Cushing green. Okay.
Yes.
Really love this color. You sent over some other colors as well. And so on our website, on barrydownepaint.com, we've got a collection of your kind of go-to palette that we're going to be updating with some of these trend colors that you've shared with us. Are there some other color trends that you see, that you could see yourself using on projects and recommending to customers?
Totally. And I am so excited about this one. So we've all heard Hale Navy. Everybody loves Hale Navy.
Everybody loves Hale Navy.
Everybody loves. I do too. I have used it for years. It's gorgeous. But my forecast for the future is we're going to be airing on more of a peacock blue. So it can be reminiscent of navy. So if you look at the top, it's Van Deusen blue.
Yes.
So see how it is reminiscent of navy, but you have a lot more lightness and color to it.
Absolutely.
I think navy will always be in style. It's not going anywhere. But with regards to a trend, I really think we're going to see more pungent blues, more bright blues, rather than, you know, the typical navy accent wall that people have been doing in their boys' bedrooms, which guilty as charged. That's what I have in my
Do you
sunroom
really?
right now.
Well, it's really easy. It's easy.
It's very easy. Yeah, it's, again, very livable. Everybody likes it. So, I mean, navy is great for resale value too. If you're considering doing some color in a home, not necessarily all neutrals, navy is definitely, you know, a safe go-to. But I definitely think we're going to see the bridging of those more kind of historical colors with a little bit more oomph to them. So I'm very excited about this one. I just want to paint a whole room in Van Deusen blue right now.
You know, it's really interesting because I've even seen customers use Van Deusen blue, you know, on the kitchen island or on all of their doors, you know, white walls, and then they've used this on their doors rather than on walls.
Absolutely.
I don't know if it's possible for a color to be a neutral, but I think if it is, navy blue is
right.
It's almost, it feels like a neutral.
I totally agree with you. And it's the same with fashion, right? You know how they say, oh, leopard print is a neutral. You know, there's a lot of activity with leopard print, but it still translates as a neutral. So yeah, I'm very excited about this color. I'm wanting to do a kitchen, like top to bottom, kitchen cabinets, high gloss Van Deusen blue with a nice like brushed brass pull on it.
So you've mentioned high gloss a couple of times now.
I have.
So is that also a trend? Is gloss a thing?
You know what? It's not for everybody. I think it is making a comeback. We got away from it for a really long time and we saw a lot of matte furniture, a lot of matte flooring, a lot of matte paint, which I'm all for. But again, I think layering textures is just as important as layering colors. So it adds a lot of interest to a room. Otherwise, it can feel really flat if it's all in the same. So I'm drawn to high gloss right now because I think it's fresh and it's new and we're kind of revisiting that. So yeah, it's coming back.
And you know, one of the, so even high gloss like painted walls, surfaces. Yes. And one of the things that will sometimes hold us back from recommending or really going all the way with a customer on high gloss is that one of the things about gloss is the shinier something is, the more it highlights imperfections. But at the same time, the more it highlights architectural detail. It can work for you and it can work against you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and so it's one of those things where if you have something that's in excellent condition, you know, you've sanded it, you've removed the sanding dust, you have made the texture something
flawless.
Looking at, yeah. I love high gloss. If it's something as bumpy and lumpy, I'm like, ooh, this is maybe not. We want to be going lower sheen with it. You know, so it's interesting.
You are so right about what it highlights. So that's when there's different levels of finished gypsum board, essentially your drywall. So that's where you'd want a level 5. That is like the best, smoothest finish for high gloss applications. So yeah, you definitely should check out the condition of your walls before you choose a high gloss, because you're absolutely right, Kelly. It can make or break it.
I just learned something new. We've had customers that have done level 5 drywall, and I remember the painters being very stressed out about, okay, they're using
Making
level
sure.
5. It's got to be even going in with
That's why.
So that I actually didn't realialize that. Thank you.
Yeah, there's different levels of your finished drywall. So yes, level 5 high gloss.
So now you mentioned Van Deusen blue, Cushing green. I saw the other 2 colors that are in there. Is it possible that you are super into saturated colors right now?
I never thought I'd say it.
There isn't a neutral in here.
I know. It was a huge flip from the palette that I have on the website right now, but that's the beauty of color, and that's the beauty of trends, is you're always evolving and experimenting and playing. And right now I am all about color. And again, creating these different spaces, these different destinations that can evoke different moods. So yeah, I'm all about it.
Let's talk about the brick red.
Yes, brick red.
So pretty on the screen. It's really beautiful.
It's so rich.
Being influenced, where is this influence coming from? Where's red coming from in terms of being such an emerging color?
I think, well, 2 things. One, I'm not sure if people even realize that I used to work for Barrydowne Paint. You so graciously hired me. Yes, I was an employee. You so graciously hired me when I was a design student, and I came back in the summer, and this was one of the colors that I just was drawn to. I love it so much. So again, it's kind of that tried and true color that I've always liked. It's never gotten old. But I think that resurgence of saturated colors just kind of re-invoked this brick red, and I can see myself using it more boldly than I would have before. And again, just coming back to those more traditional spaces, you could always see these deep, rich, even scarlet red rooms from ceiling to floor. So it really excites me that we're introducing these colors back into our palettes and into our homes. I think too, you know, I do a lot of commercial spaces, and I find myself and my clients definitely more aggressive or more experimental with color in commercial spaces.
Really?
And well, because I think they don't, oh, sorry, somebody's calling me. I'm just going to decline that. Sorry about that.
No worries. I was like, where did Lauren go?
Whoops. I didn't think of that when I was using my phone. But so I think now that people are working from home, they don't want to look at 4 white walls all day. So I think inviting color into your home is going to be something that we're seeing in the future, because a lot of people are not going back to the office, and right? So this is just a more interesting space to work in and communicate in.
It's interesting that all of that commercial space, all of those creative office spaces, they're gone, you know?
Right.
Everybody's gone home.
I know.
So it's interesting. Now, question about that. This is a lot of color. You know, a lot of the colors that we're looking at is a lot of color. Do you think that in a work environment or in a home office space, a commercial office space, is color something you need to be careful of in an area, or even for yourself in an area where you need to be able to focus and be creative and be productive?
So there's a lot of psychological research done with color theory and how it affects you. I think it's extremely personal, though. Personally, I like working in white. I really like a blank canvas that is really inspiring to me and just kind of lets my creativity play. However, that being said, if I go into somebody else's spaces that is just pungent with color, I'm inspired by that as well. I find so energizing and just evokes team collaborative effort. So I think it's deeply personal on how that color does affect you and what you would want to work in, home or at the office.
I agree. Now, talking about white, I realize, sidebar,
white, such a complex color.
It's a very complex color. And, you know, for a lot of our customers, you being in the design world, in the design profession, you probably started work, or probably have always worked with whites and feel very comfortable working with whites. For a lot of us normal folk, white is a little, we can't imagine that white will make our space look decorated and beautiful. So
Right.
let's talk about, do you have any rules for white, and do you have any kind of go-to shades of white that you have a lot of confidence using?
Absolutely. A lot of clients are scared of white, or they think that they're like cheating if they paint their house white because it's easy. But white, like I said, is one of the most complex colors and difficult to achieve the look that you're looking for. So my number one advice is layering whites. So if you continue to use the same white over and over and over, sometimes it can really feel flat. Whereas if you layer the whites, even if they're a few shades off, it just gives some more depth to the room. So that's definitely one thing. Two is consider your lighting always. So you have to make sure the temperature of your light is the way that it's going to be when you're finished painting. You can change a light bulb and your white will change dramatically.
Got it. Okay.
So you got to make sure, if you like that warm white, then definitely keep in with those, you know, warmer light fixtures. And the vice versa.
How do we know when we're shopping for the light bulb? Is this a light bulb decision, or is this a fixture decision?
It's the bulb, not the fixture itself.
Okay.
It's the temperature of the bulb.
So we get the bulb. What are we reading? We're going to make a guide. We're going to have you
Absolutely.
a guide where it's like Lauren's quick reference guide to, like, because you want to,
how to pick the right white
all the time. Yeah. Do you know that in our house, Matt, we need new light bulbs. New light bulbs. I was like, what happened?
Are they blue?
So, you know, of course, it's
fluorescent.
The entire on sale.
No.
So
you're so right. Color, again, it comes down to color of your bulb is everything. And the warmth is measured in Kelvin. So on the box, you'll see cool white, daylight, warm white, and it's kind of a gradation of how warm you want to go. Okay. That's really important to consider when you're buying them. Like I said, you could put a white on the wall that looks totally crisp, like let's say Chantilly Lace, very clean, and then put that yellow bulb there and it's cream.
So do you have a go-to bulb? Do you have a go-to that you're just like, this never fails me, this is the color I tend to go with?
I'm partial. I prefer warm white in my home. I like the softness of it as opposed to the daylight. The daylight you would probably feel more in like retail store or, you know, kitchen lighting where it's a little bit cooler, more task oriented, but I do like warm light throughout the home.
What would be a number? Would it just say warm white, or would there be a number on it?
So there will be a number on the bottom. That's probably going to be around 2,700, I would guess, off the top of my head. So, and you'll see there's also a little graphic where they'll show you from the blue up until like the orange, and they'll mark on the box how warm that's going to translate.
That's awesome. Thank you for the lighting rundown. Now you mentioned Chantilly Lace, because that is great. Any other whites, if somebody is going to bite the bullet, try to dive into the white deep end, are there any other whites that you feel really confident recommending customers to consider?
OC17 White Dove.
It's a good one.
Or Dove White.
You know what? I
mix
it up all the time. And yeah, so I believe
there's Dove Wing and White Dove.
And White Dove, yes.
White Dove.
Like, that's not confusing enough.
I know, right?
But it's White Dove. That the OC17 is the most.
It is my absolute favorite. I use it in so many applications. It's just such a reliable white. It does have, I don't even want to say cream because you don't see it as cream when it's painted, but up against the more very true whites, it does have a warmer undertone with a hint of gray. Yeah, so I find
it's tempered down. The cream is
tempered down.
Yeah.
So I find it a very beautiful warm white without being cream. So I use that on walls. I've used that in entire home projects. I use it on millwork, trim work. It's just, it's definitely one of my favorites that I use.
That's awesome. Cool. Thank you. We'll get those recommendations up there too, because really for a lot of people, that next trend for them to embrace that isn't a saturated color is going to be going from gray to
Right.
white. Now, if a customer's sitting out there and they've got the brown house, maybe it's like wild mushroom or one of the colors. Here's the funny thing.
I grew up in that.
We all did. We all did. Now, here's the funny thing is that would you agree that some of those wild mushroom, barely beige, stone house colors, do you feel like they're almost coming back into style?
I do. I absolutely do. Again, we're coming away from those cooler tones that we saw everywhere for over a decade.
Yeah.
They still have a place, just not your entire house.
You're referring to
yes, cooler tones, especially gray. Believe me, I just brought a gray vanity for my bathroom renovation. I still love gray. I just think we have to be more selective in how we use it. And we're probably going to be seeing it more as an accent color rather than the main hue for the entire home.
Couch, a vanity, not floors, walls.
Exactly.
Everything.
Exactly.
I think that's really important because it does come up where we have customers that have been in the brown house and now they're ready to say, okay, I want to do a gray because maybe they skipped. Sometimes we only paint every 10 to 15 years.
Yeah.
And so that maybe that gray bubble was in between the first time and then this time. And I think it's really important to point out for some customers that if they are looking for a change and they're coming from, sometimes their beiges and browns that they're working with now are really on point and are really,
totally,
even though they might be done with it.
Yep. So you might have to come back and just find what color it is and repaint.
Yeah. You know what though?
Sometimes
you just need to change. Sometimes you just need like that different color. So maybe white is one of those whites or some of these really pretty beiges are the way to go.
You can start to introduce, you know, on a different topic too. If you look at the housing market and look at millennials, a lot of millennials are kind of pushing back home ownership. A, it's very expensive. B, a lot of them are traveling before having kids. You know, they're living a lot of life before they get their home. So what you see with the millennial age is a lot of renting. And with renting, you don't have a ton of flexibility in your flooring, right? What are you going to do with those fixed elements? So paint is everything for that market. As long as your landlord approves, usually you can paint your apartment, right? So I think that market can really, you know, lend from these color palettes and make their space elevated and current without too much cost.
I agree. Yeah, I mean, paint is the fastest way to get that a big wow impact for sure. Now you had another color. It's super dark in your recommendations.
Yes.
That I really loved.
I know.
To describe. It's called Soot 2129-20. How do you describe this color?
Oh God, it's so complex. There is, believe it or not, I'm going to say it, there is a gray undertone, but it translates as black. However, you have kind of a nuance of blue. There's a bit of blue in it. So again, it's not that navy that we've seen for so long. It's a new version of it. So I actually just used this on a new custom fireplace. It was shiplap, ceiling to floor, and it's stunning. It's absolutely stunning. So I think Soot, you're going to see a lot more use of, and another neutral that you can use in your home. And we were talking about regionalism and how colors can kind of lend to our region. And after thinking about that, our landscape is so gorgeous and so beautiful on its own in every season that this color will let that shine. You know, it's not necessarily competing with the landscape, but it's like a framed piece of art. So if this were a window trim, if Soot were a window trim, really, you're framing our landscape and making it into art.
I think that's beautiful. I really agree with you. It kind of recedes rather than takes over. Like,
Absolutely.
That's the right way of describing it, but I absolutely love it.
Well said.
And it's what we would consider a complex color in that it's a little, it's warm and it's cool. It is warm, actually, and I don't know if it's the grayish undertone that's in it, but it is quite warm. So you see yourself using this. You mentioned trim. You mentioned on kind of like a feature fireplace.
Yeah.
Is that the type of context for this type of color, or would you have?
Not only. Not only.
Not only. So how else would
Not
you use this?
I would love to do a powder room ceiling to floor in this color. So for years, I've been trying to convince clients to do like a black room. And of course, everybody's a little intimidated by it.
Of course.
So the darkest I was able to convince someone to go was Kendall charcoal. We did Kendall charcoal in an entire powder room and it looked fabulous. So I'm still waiting on that one client that will let me in and possibly put soot in their powder room.
Oh, I don't know if the name does it any justice though. Soot. Like I was loving it when I was reading it, but then now you just said it.
In a powder room.
I think
I'm not selling it well. But you know what? I think too, this is a color that's been around for a long time, but maybe overlooked. I think in this case, having a trained eye and being able to see those undertones and knowing how that will translate on a wall is really great. And I think that's why sometimes if you're having trouble, seeking professional advice will really help you achieve the look that you're trying to go for.
Now you mentioned a powder room, dark color powder room. I'm going to just echo what a lot of people will say, and they'll say, oh, I don't want anything that's going to make the room look small. That's probably the smallest room that we have in the house. So talk me through like colors making rooms look small. Is there any problem with that? It's already a small room.
I have never.
That. I was like, well, I don't think any color is going to make this look big.
Yeah. And you know what? You're right. It's not necessarily the color that makes a room feel bigger or smaller. It's if you continue that color in a monochromatic scheme. So let's say I did an entire bedroom in tapestry beige, which is a really nice kind of beigey green. If I layer different values of that same color, so different shades of that color, that's what's going to make it feel bigger. It's not just the color itself that you use. It's how you incorporate the other colors as well.
Yeah.
So when you do a small powder room, if you wrap that soot on the walls and then you have a gorgeous white ceramic pedestal sink and you have huge white matted frames with a bright landscape, it is not going to feel as dark as you may think it is because the paint becomes an accent.
Yep. Yeah. It just supports the rest of the color scheme.
And there's nothing wrong with small spaces. Everybody wants bigger and better, but let me tell you, some of the smallest, most well thought out spaces are the coziest. So
yeah, that's awesome. And probably the most fun to do.
Oh, absolutely. You have to get creative and let your creative juices flow.
That's awesome. Okay. So we talked about your saturated colors. I'm curious about something. What are your favorite projects to work on? Like, what's your favorite room? Like, is it the powder room? Probably not the powder room.
So on a more kind of global scale, I had alluded to this before, I really enjoy commercial spaces, leasehold improvements. And part of the reason that I really enjoy it is because I get a creative license. So people are definitely invested in their work, in their space, and they want to have a voice in how it feels. But I find I have more of a creative license there than I do in people's homes because it's so unbelievably personal. So for me, I find professionally, that's the most satiating because I really get to play and have fun with values of color and hues of color and texture. And so I find that very satisfying. But within the home, I love front entrances. I love doing foyers. And the main reason is that's everybody's first impression. That's how you're welcoming people into your home. So you want to make sure that it reflects who you or your family are.
I think that's awesome. And it's interesting because in a lot of newer builds, there isn't the foyer. People are walking right into the open concept. And so what are some, I know I'm putting you on the spot, but how do you define an entrance when you're walking into the whole space? How do you
That's a very good question. That's a very good question. So floor transitions is the first one that comes to mind. Where your floor transitions are will really identify that space, whether there's a wall or not. Mm-hmm. Another one to consider is ceiling transitions as well. So let's say you do some custom trim work on the ceiling. It's really going to identify that spot and lead your eye to that area and make it special, even if it is in an open area. So think top and bottom. when
I love it.
you're
That's
looking at
actually,
open spaces.
and when you come to think about it, that floor transition is definitely the easiest and probably the most practical. I mean, we do live in Northern Ontario, so
Right?
winter boots.
Exactly.
Coming out.
Yeah, you have to be very considerate of the products that you're putting in your home because they do have to stand a lot of snow.
I love it. So, okay, of all of these saturated colors that you've run us through, which of these colors do you see as, you know, if you were, okay, this is the color of the year, Lauren Perry edition.
Van Deusen blue.
Van Deusen blue. Awesome.
That's the one.
I thought so, but I wanted to make sure.
Yeah, Van
Left
Deusen blue.
color trends question. So I want to run you through something, and I
hear
hope
it.
you say yes to this. Let me pull it up here. I would like to do a quick little non-visual, so I'm totally putting you on the spot.
Love
This
it.
or that. Are you on board?
Let's do it. This or that.
Okay. All right, let me pull it up here. Painted wood trim versus wood grain.
That's a loaded question. Wood grain.
Wood grain. Wood grain. Really?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
I guessed that wrong.
Well, it's a loaded question because it has to be the absolute right grain. But if you can do wood, I would do wood.
Can I ask you a question about the wood grain? Wood grain, oak or maple?
Ooh, maple.
Ooh, okay, so not a lot of grain.
Less grain.
Less grain. Wood tone, dark or light?
Light.
I knew you were gonna say that.
I'm still on the light bandwagon.
Wallpaper or accent color on a ceiling?
Wallpaper.
I love it. Hard to
Wallpaper.
do, but definitely more dramatic.
Yep.
Modern or traditional?
Traditional. I'm always traditional.
I knew that. I knew it before I asked. I wanted to hear you say it.
And you know what? Like, I'm renovating my bathroom right now, and I had all these really, trendy current light fixtures, and I just couldn't press the buy button. And I went back to all traditional.
Really?
I did. I was so close, but I just decided that it's what I'm comfortable living in. So.
And it's so warm.
It's so warm and inviting.
Yeah, and you can add in a modern element. I'm totally on board. I feel when you're all in on modern, you really have to live the lifestyle. There's no clutter. I have way too much clutter.
I have way too much clutter too.
There's no clutter.
No, but you're so right. It's just recognizing you have to honor yourself and your own taste, no matter what the trends are. Like you said, I think you can always filter in trends through accents or, a painted wall, but just stay true to what your taste is.
I love it. Okay. Monochromatic or contrasting colors?
Gosh, you are good at this. Oh, monochromatic.
Monochromatic.
I'm doing monochromatic. Yeah.
Me too. We'll kind of maybe we can explain because sometimes people don't realize what monochromatic means. So what does monochromatic mean?
So again, I referenced this before, but it's essentially using the same color in different shades within any space, within any art. It's just using the different values of the same color.
So like when you were talking about the layering with potter's clay,
exactly,
monochromatic with all of the same color family layered on top of one another.
Yeah. So same undertones, just different shades of that color. So even, if people are still kind of unsure, a lot of people will see these cards, mm-hmm. right? And there's different values of a very similar color. So that's kind of an example of a monochromatic color scheme.
Trim, painted dark or white?
Dark.
That's awesome.
I didn't even hesitate on that
one.
No,
you didn't even hesitate.
I am loving dark trim and dark doors right now. So yes, I'm all for it.
That's awesome. Warm tones or cool tones?
Warm tones. I'm going, look at my shirt.
I know.
I don't lie. I'm going for
totally
warm tones,
agree.
But just remember that the most authentic room is when you have the warm and the cool. So if your majority is a warm paint color on the wall, make sure to introduce some cooler tones into your accents or your furniture or your vases. So it just really, makes it a more comfortable space.
Provides that balance. Too,
totally.
Right? Like a little bit of balance and almost working across on the color wheel. Like I find like
you're so right.
Blue grays would look really good with potter's clay, blue and orange, that type of thing.
You're so right. And that's, you know, the 2021 color trends, they're talking about harmony, and you can achieve that with this as well, not just in color, right?
Yeah, definitely. Zac Efron or Brad Pitt?
Pitt, always Pitt.
Really?
Oh yeah, no, he doesn't get old.
I agree. We'll have to look at the photos. Okay, concrete or marble?
Marble. Again, I'm the traditionalist. And don't get me wrong, I love concrete. I've done concrete counters, I've done concrete floors, but my choice would always be marble.
I love it. And I have to say, I feel like I know more about your aesthetic and your look and everything. Your Instagram, you give away so much free advice on your Instagram account with those, all of your stories. Everybody needs to follow that because
thank you.
The other day you shared something that just made me laugh. #1 decorating faux pas. I don't know if you're going to say it, what it is, but what is, for everybody that's curious, what is your #1 design blunder?
Yeah, this one is, it makes me laugh. Carpeted bathrooms. I have no idea who ever thought it was a good idea to put carpet in bathrooms. So thank God that's a thing of the past. But I just can't believe that was ever a thing.
I've seen it.
Right?
Yeah, it's out there.
Yeah. And it was always pink. It was always pink.
Oh my God, you plucked that right out of my mind. It's always pink. Jesus
always
Christ.
pink.
Now, to that effect, is carpeting coming back?
So I have definitely seen a comeback in using broadloom in home spaces. I've always been an advocate for broadloom in bedrooms.
Yes.
I know a lot of people like carpet-free homes. They think it's easy to clean, and I agree. I think it's fantastic from that point of view. But when your foot hits that carpet, you just know you've entered comfort. So I'm always an advocate for broadloom in bedrooms.
And when you say broadloom, you're talking like installed carpeting end to end, not an area rug.
Correct. So, I mean, I'm all for area rugs too. You can actually layer area rugs on top of carpet, believe it or not. It just adds an extra layer and an extra element. Also a way to introduce more color into your space, because broadloom, typically you go with a more neutral palette. But I love the feeling that it gives. And again, it just lends to that aesthetic of warm, cozy, and inviting.
I love it. This is awesome. This has been great, Lauren. Thank you so much. I can't wait to hear everybody's feedback on this. And I am going to go on record and say that I am going to use Cushing green in my house.
Yay! Oh, I can't wait to see it. That's fantastic.
It was just made for me. Don't you think?
Well, there you go. We have similar tastes.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see that in action.
Blue I love, but I feel like I need a little bit more green in my life. I'm ready for, this has been in my comfort zone for a very long time, and now I'm ready to branch out because I really do think that this is going to be an important trend.
Well, when COVID is all over, we'll have to have a cocktail in the Cushing green room.
I love it. This is definitely a cocktail room.
Right? Grab our glass of scotch.
I love it. Thank you so much, Lauren, and thank you everyone for tuning in. This has been a lot of fun, and I really look forward to catching up more online. We need to do this again.
Sounds great. Thanks for inviting me, Kelly. Always a blast.
Thank you.